Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've posted a video, so I figured it was time to make some new content. I do have some exciting news to share, and that is that I have recently purchased a new car. I ended up buying a brand new 2024 Toyota Corolla. It's a rainy day here, so it's not ideal conditions for me to go out and film more of the car, but I can definitely include a few pictures in this video of the vehicle, and I hope you will stay tuned for more content. My last video, I spoke about a comparison of gasoline, hybrid, and electric vehicles. And since making that video, I have done extensive research comparing these types of cars and looking at the pros and cons in more detail to help myself decide what type of car to purchase. Although I did mention I was going to buy either a hybrid or an electric, I ended up actually buying a gasoline car, and I'll explain as I get into the video. I should say I'm not trying to discourage anybody from buying a hybrid because I still think they're an excellent vehicle option, and I do see a lot of good potential for them in the future. However, for this point in time, for my particular circumstances, I ended up deciding that a gasoline car was going to be a better fit for me. But I'll just start by talking about some of the key factors that came down to making my decision. The first was looking at whether or not there would be both a provincial and federal rebate offered to help lower the cost of purchasing the vehicle. In talking to various representatives at different levels within government, I was not able to get a very clear answer as to whether or not I would be eligible for both. And because of that cost comparison, I decided it was more in my interest to purchase a gasoline car. And another important consideration for me was looking at the battery technology. Initially, I was very convinced that buying the hybrid car would be the best option because I liked the environmentally friendly concept of driving a vehicle that would lower my CO2 emissions through the use of gasoline. However, when looking at the cost of the batteries to replace and the warranty longevity of the vehicle, to buy a hybrid, and particularly for the types that I was examining, I was concerned about the high cost of replacing the battery if the warranty ran out, because the warranty covers one battery replacement, but after that you must pay out of pocket to replace the battery. The hope is that the battery would last up to 10 years, but in some cases the warranty is only covered up to a certain mileage, whether or not that's from the time you've purchased the vehicle or from when it was first registered. Now, when I last talked in my previous video, I said that the Toyota brand is the car I was really interested in, and that is the type of car that I did end up purchasing. So I am very grateful that a Toyota vehicle ended up being available for me when I decided to make the decision to purchase one. And I bought it directly through Summerside Toyota. I had a really wonderful experience there working with the sales manager as well as the finance manager. And I found that the vehicle had a lot of great benefits and perks for my needs. To begin with, it had a full warranty at the time of purchase, where it is brand new. And that's a very important consideration because knowing there's a decent amount of techiness associated with these vehicles, it's not ideal to buy a vehicle that has limited to no warranty, because if you do, then if something was to go wrong with the technology, you're on your own to try to pay for that for the most part, unless you have some type of insurance to back you up. Now, another great feature with buying brand new is that the interest rates are lower to finance a vehicle. Now, when I talked to various used car sales dealerships, looking at used cars, particularly ones that were around a year 2020 or 2021, I found that the warranties on them were pretty well next to none, but also that the interest rates were typically around 8 to 10%. And this is pretty high considering that we know cars in most cases are not an asset. They're usually a liability and they depreciate over time. So when I was able to talk to Summerside Toyota directly, they were able to offer us much lower interest rate. So that was very advantageous for me. And this is even making a down payment to help cover some of the upfront cost of the vehicle. Now, I'm not going to get into leasing vehicles because that's a whole nother category. But for my purposes, I believe that because I'm financing mine, that's more of the discussion I'll be having in my video today. I started out really closely looking at the Prius and the Prius Primes because I was very set on buying a hybrid Toyota car. The hybrids are beautiful though, and I test drove a few and really enjoyed the feel of them. And very modern, a lot of really nice features. But then I started to test drive some Corollas as well. And I started to find that for me, having come from driving a Toyota Echo previously, as far back as 2005, the last year that they made Toyota Echoes, to jump up to something newer than a 2020 is quite a change. And so being able to adapt to that big jump in years, for me personally, I found buying the Corolla was a little bit less of a techie upgrade. Something would be a little bit more comfortable for me. But like I said in the past, any Toyota car that you buy, you can't go wrong with because they're all well built, well made to last. And they really do reflect my personality type, looking for a vehicle that's going to last a very long time and that's going to be reliable on the roads. So having a car that you can trust is definitely going to be a good investment. And a few little examples of things that I experienced when test driving the vehicles and doing comparisons of different models of the Toyota brand. When I was driving the Prius, I did notice that the gear shift was up near the radio as opposed to lower down by your waist. And for me, this was not a major criteria, but it was something a little bit different that I would have had to adapt to getting used to. I also found that with the screen technology on the Priuses, they had a lot of little switches and buttons you had to press. So for instance, there was one time I went to park one of the Priuses and then lock the doors, but the car wasn't locking because one of the screens was still turned on. So I had to go talk to the sales manager and ask why the car wouldn't lock. But he came out and showed me that there was a button you had to press to turn off the screen before you could lock the car. So this is just one example of something that surprised me, because then when I was driving the Corollas, it didn't seem to matter whether the screens were turned on or off. The car would still lock without having those screens turned off in advance. So for me, that was just a noticeable difference and something that I preferred in the Corolla, because that's just one example. But what's to say there won't be other examples where you're driving and then you find other things that start acting up. So in my opinion, the more techy a vehicle is, the more likely there are to be other technological complications that will arise as you're driving the car. Now with the Corolla that I just purchased, it's very interesting for me because having had a 19-year-old car, my new vehicle is now 19 years newer than my old vehicle, so that has been a big upgrade for me. And with the new car, I think it's just really nice to have the flexibility of driving something now that's much smoother and that just feels a little bit more durable on the roads, and obviously has no history of having been in an accident. That was another concern I ran into in test driving many of the Priuses. Being in the Maritimes of Canada, I have not found many Priuses around, and oftentimes there's a shortage of them because not a lot are being built, and a lot of them that are being purchased and brought over to sell in PEI are often coming from larger provinces such as Ontario and Quebec. I've talked to many different car dealers and companies that you can't even test drive a vehicle before you purchase it, and they may be a lot cheaper, and that's part of the incentive to get you to buy from them. But I really felt like I had a more comfortable experience all in all. to buy directly from a dealer where I was able to test drive the vehicle in advance to make sure that it met my expectations and that I wouldn't then be left with something to drive that is not going to meet my needs. Now, the next thing I'll talk about is just the fact that this brand new car is in such wonderful, amazing condition. I'm not likely going to need maintenance on it for the first like 2 or 3 years, as long as there's no major accident or other technological issues with it, because it has no rust on it and there's no wear and tear outside of just a little bit I've driven it so far. So that will definitely help to lower my expenses in the interim leading into the next few years. So that's also very beneficial. So those were just some of the things I wanted to mention, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, or feel free to leave any comments you have below in the comment section. And if you'd like me to make more videos about this content, just let me know. Have a great day, folks.